Do you ever feel like a hamster on a hamster wheel, not getting anywhere new? Perhaps you've hit a plateau that has you asking, is this it? Have you accomplished all you've set out to do in life and are not feeling as fulfilled as you thought you would? It is normal at midlife to reassess what's working for you and what's not. It's also normal to want to reclaim your time, your energy, and your joy. Let's make the best out of the second half of our lives by having more fun, experiencing more peace, and feeling more joy. If any of this resonates with you, then this podcast is for you. I'm Megan Bayless Bartley. Now let's get ready to shift our shit.
Welcome back, everybody, to Season 2, Episode 3 with Ashley Vaden. Part 1, we got to know Ashley a little bit and her journey and how she became a therapist. And now she's going to share with us her own personal journey with therapy. And, this is always a little anxiety producing. Clearly, just being on the video and talking about our lives and not wanting to know like how much to say or how much not to say. And I always tell people like, just talk about what you're comfortable talking about, because no matter what you talk about, you being here and being real is really what's going to be helpful to people. So
Yes.
we're happy to have Ashley tell us a little bit, because for many of us therapists, we were influenced by our own therapists, and we're like, damn, so
Yes.
curious, like, what has your therapy journey been like?
Yeah. I remember asking to go to therapy in high school, and I don't remember how I knew to ask. Maybe because there was a counselor at school. But I, didn't have the language for it at the time, but definitely struggle with like some developmental attachment trauma is the best way I would describe it. And so I started going at 16, and my mom came along with me for part of that journey. And it was incredibly helpful for our relationship and just teaching us to communicate and really hashing out things. And it helped me open up to my mom more about what was going on with me as a teen. I think that's so important for teens to be able to do. Not that your parents need to know everything, but there are certainly times when you need your parent to be your therapist in the field. And so it was really helpful that we had done that work, and she knew more about my own kind of internal experience. And, my first therapist was a marriage and family therapist, was a very therapist. So she was just also a very inspiring woman. And I think I saw her off and on for about 10 years. Actually, so my father passed away when I was in college, and I actually kind of avoided therapy for a while after that, just kind of wasn't ready to grieve, and didn't really know what it meant to grieve. So I kind of avoided therapy for a bit of time. But I remember and maybe kind of saw a few different therapists here and there just for tune-ups. But I'd say my next real profound experience in therapy was I met with one of my kind of a mentor through 7 counties, and we did a lot of experiential therapy. And he really just helped me slow down and figure out what my emotions were trying to communicate to me. Because I'd always been, I'd been like very CBT focused. How can I restructure my thoughts? How can I have more discipline? How can I journal and do all the things, check all the boxes? But he really helped me see like every emotion has a need. Like your emotions stem from your unmet needs. And I don't know, that was a huge turning point for me in life. And learned a lot about myself and just slowing down. And has helped me, I think, slow down more with clients, to really focus in on emotion and get more comfortable with emotion. Because even as a therapist, it can it's so hard sometimes to see people struggle, to see people suffer. And sometimes you will kind of bypass it. So it helped me get more comfortable with intimate therapeutic moments where you're really kind of in the throes of it with your clients and not running away from the emotion. So that was huge for me. And then I've always kind of struggled in my intimate relationships with anxiety. I've always had a ton of relationship anxiety. I've done really well with friends, but have never done quite so well in the romantic sphere of life.
Sure.
So I think IFS is really helping me, build a secure attachment within myself.
Yes.
So that I, learn how to identify and meet and validate my own needs.
Yes. I feel like you're speaking my like language, where like when I met my husband and
yeah,
we were dating, and even like in marriage, I was like, I don't quite trust that this is who you really are.
Yeah.
Like, I'm still waiting for this like shoe to drop,
Yep.
like this thing to happen where this is, like you're gonna like surprise me and become this, I don't know what, but not
Yeah.
what he kept showing up to be. I didn't trust it. And it would like really, I mean, I talked about this in one of the podcast episodes of like, we were in marriage therapy, like our 3rd year of marriage, because I was like, I don't think I'm meant to be married. Like, I have too much anxiety about this. I'm like, there's just so much. And, working through that, and really it was for years. I remember like that feeling of like, the shoe's going to drop. This is too good to be true. This is something, of like, so, maybe that's part of our journey as well of, having some, things when we're growing up that parents can and can't help with, and then how that affects us when we go into romantic relationships.
Yes. Yes.
Difficult. Very difficult.
It is. And in working with kids, I learned more about attachment and understood how important attachment is, even as we are adults, because we are still children inside. Still very much have childlike parts to us that need our attention and love and connectedness. But yeah, I never knew really relationship anxiety was a thing, because there's always this idea of like, when and when it's the one, and
right.
I don't, those types of maybe cliches or statements don't always work for people who have, been hurt in their past, or just seen their own parents struggle with relationships and their own insecurities. So, just having the language of, oh, okay, this is relationship anxiety. And maybe this isn't about my relationship. Maybe this is about what my relationship reflects back to me. So our relationships are mirrors. And what is this kind of teaching me about what I need, what's important to me, where my wounds are, where I struggle to be authentic. And so, yeah, that's discovering internal family systems has been really, really moving and powerful for me as well. Yeah.
I like what you said. This really stuck out to me. Emotions stem from unmet needs.
Yes.
Tell us more about that. Like, and maybe in your own, like how you've seen it show up for you. Or,
I remember my mentor quizzing me, and he's like, where do emotions come from? Why do we have emotions? And I just remember being stumped, and I was like, I don't know. Why do we have emotions? Like, how are they, I guess, like biologically significant, or how do they help us survive?
Yeah, it's like an alert system.
Yeah.
Like alert, like, hey, pay attention.
Yeah. And he said, emotions stem from needs. And a lot of this actually ties to like nonviolent communication, when you're communicating with people about in difficult topics and difficult moments, and you have different ideas, taking responsibility for how you feel, taking responsibility and bringing awareness to your own expectations, your own desires, and how that can kind of muddy you up sometimes. But, as you can connect to those things and bring more awareness to those things, reflecting your internal experience to the next person can just be really helpful to them. Even if they can't meet your needs, it's helpful to know what they are. It's helpful to articulate them.
Yes.
It's helpful to prioritize them. And then adding this element of compassion, having compassion for your needs and compassion for the needs of other people in relationships. So
it's funny because I tell people, adults who are, you know, in my midlife, and I'm like, well, how would you say this to your child? You know,
Yeah.
like, because most of us at this point, we, you know, this wave of parenting where it's like really, you know, doing the time ins versus the time outs and getting, you know, owning your stuff as the parent and having the kiddo take responsibility for theirs, you know, like, and so I'm like, you do this. I guarantee you probably do this with your child. So like now this is about doing this with yourself, right? Is like
Yes.
expressing yourself and saying, here's what I need to your partner or to your parents or to your siblings or, you know, friends of like, you know, and if you, the more I think adults practice this on their own, I think one, the kids will see it just sort of
Yep.
inherently and they'll feel a difference
Yep.
with the parents. So it's not so much, it's more of like that whole do as I say and not as I do. And now it's like you're doing what you're saying, you know, and showing your kiddos that too.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're able to validate your own feelings, then you can validate your child's feelings, and that's all they really need. Like maybe they don't need the thing that they're you know, having a lot of distress or a tantrum about, but they do need to feel heard. They do need to feel seen. They
Yes.
do need to feel loved in that need.
Yes.
And so do we as adults.
Mhm.
And sometimes that's why, you know, when you go to your partner with a problem and they try to fix it,
Mhm.
that doesn't work, because really what you're asking is this really a problem? Like, is this a problem too to
Mhm.
you? And just to
Right.
have your need validated is like,
Right.
okay, well, now I know I'm not crazy. My need
Yes.
makes sense. That's
Yes.
all. I don't really care if I get the thing. I just feel heard.
Right.
It just
Absolutely.
makes such a big difference. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and we have this really cool online courses of, you know, boundaries and dealing with difficult people, which for anybody who's interested in, you know, kind of learning more about this sort of communicating and how to take care of yourself and, you know, speak to others. I like you mentioned this nonviolent communication, you know,
Yes.
which is not really about like violence,
Right.
people like beating people up physically. It's more about like that defensiveness and all the different things, which, you know, we definitely help people learn in our courses, but also, you know, in therapy, with, you know, it's just figuring out how to speak to ourselves more kindly,
Right.
right? Which
Right.
will overflow into how we speak to others. But, you know, I think a lot of times I've been thinking about this a lot about how, you know, if most of us have a or a couple of difficult people in our lives when we're younger, we can get triggered by people who show up similarly to those people, and we, you know, that the anxiety and the things that'll happen. And so it's like if we can learn more about that,
Yep.
you know, and take care of ourselves and that,
Yep.
and, you know, like it just it's just transformative because it permeates all areas of your life, you know.
Yes. Yes.
I tell I ask clients a lot. I'm like, who's in your head? You know, like they'll be fine, and then they'll come in for a session and they're super anxious. I'm like, who got in your head? Like you're either you had a conversation with someone that like rattled you, or you know, you're thinking about what that person's gonna say or how that person's gonna react to whatever this thing is, and it's like,
Yep.
you know, that dysregulation
Mhm.
of emotion. So,
Yes.
but what else? What as we kind of wrap up our time together, what else do you want us to know about you and therapy and how you approach people when you're doing therapy
Yeah.
with them? And, you know,
Yeah. I guess I feel like my purpose here is to help eliminate unnecessary suffering. So I know that there is suffering that we endure in life, but I think also when you struggle with anxiety or depression, there's always this element of shame and guilt and
yes.
self-judgment that we add. So I feel like that's kind of my purpose professionally, is how can we validate how you feel about the suffering that you've endured, but also make sure that you're not causing more suffering to yourself in the way that you relate to yourself and to other people. And even I almost feel like a part of my purpose here is to endure my own pain and then learn how to transmute that pain and then teach other people how to transmute their own pain. So that's been an interesting part of my journey too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just learning so much through my own struggles and trying to help other people with what I learn. So I hope to continue to do that. But yeah, I've been really focused on couples work, and have really been more interested in couples work and relationships and dating and attachment. So if anybody's interested in any of those topics, please come to see me. Because
Yeah. Ashley is, like I said in part 1, Ashley is one of our most highly sought after therapists. So there may be a wait list, but definitely reach out to her, schedule a 10-minute consult or send her an email. You can find more on our website, mindfulness-center.com. And Ashley, we thank you so much for joining us. And I know this won't be our last time with you, because we love having you on, and you always have good insight and things to share with us. So we'll look forward to the next time we hear from you.
Thanks, Megan. You too.
All right. Everybody have a great day.
Yeah.